Hey guys, Funny Guy Timmy here. Today we're doing another Writing Wednesday. I wanted to do a series of like top 10s kind of films that inspired me or motivated me to get into acting or writing or whatever. And today I actually wanted to do a top 10 goosebump scenes in films. My favorite inspiring or emotional scenes in films. The reason I wanted to do this is because when we do the live stream, you know, they pointed out that all of my stuff were like really sad or really dark, or and then I was looking at all my writing, and you know, I don't write that much comedy. Most of the stuff that I write is dramas and serious stuff. And I think a lot of this has to do with the films that really spoke to me as a kid were the ones that had darker or more dramatic scenes or moments or really inspirational, and so that's what I want to do. Now, I have to say that this is definitely going to have a lot of spoilers if you haven't seen any of these movies, but a lot of these are relatively old. You know, they're pretty, you know, they've been out for a while, so if you haven't seen them, you probably weren't going to. Also, there was a lot more than 10 on my initial list, and I had to cut it down, so I might be doing a second one if you guys like this. But let's move along to number 10. So number 10 on my list is going to be the slow clap scene from Cool Running. Cool Running was a really, really good movie in the 90s. For those who haven't seen it, it is about these friends from Jamaica that want to be bobsledders. Now, the reason it's relatively low on my list is not because it's not a great movie in my eyes. It's because when I saw it as a kid, when I first saw it as a kid, I didn't know what bobsledding was. Even though the film tells you what bobsledding is, I still didn't really get it. I was like, why is this a sport? Also, I didn't know what the Olympics were, okay? So there was a lot of, like, the universe of, you know, the scene and why all this was important that I just didn't get. But there was a lot of really good moments, really good scenes. You really felt for the characters, and the slow clap scene just goes down in history as like one of the best, like, inspirational like moments. Like, sure, they didn't win, but you know, they at least finished the race. Number 9 is going to be the I am not going to bury my son scene from John Q. This was actually one of my favorite films of Denzel Washington. It's definitely in my top 5 of all the films he's done in general, mostly because it is such an intense film, and it's very grounded. It's not some big epic you know, action-packed film. There's a little bit of action in it. There's you know, a few intense scenes, but it's mostly just this serious drama about this one guy trying to save his son and the things that he'd be willing to do to save his son. And the scene that really summed up the entire film and the character's entire motivation was this one scene. And I think it's just a great speech and just a great, you know, great monologue. And the number 8 on the list is going to be the Superman scene from Iron Giant. Now, I was actually talking to some friends before, and I was talking about films from the 80s or the 90s, cartoon movies from the 80s and 90s that I grew up with were a lot darker than the cartoon movies that we have today. They're a little bit more goofy, silly, you know, there's not as much real, you know, people don't die as much, unless it's Disney, then it's always the parents. But in the Iron Giant, there was very, very much a dark, looming, you know, sense of dread throughout the entire film, you know, involving the military and aliens and the unknown, and it really comes to this head when this missile gets launched, this nuke that's going to fall down on the city, and it comes to where the Iron Giant has to basically sacrifice himself to save everyone else. And it was just him sacrificing to save everyone that saw him as this threat and this enemy. And so it's definitely one of the most influential cartoon movies that I think I grew up with as a kid. If you haven't seen it, go see it, even though I just ruined it for you. And number 7 is going to be, this one's a little bit more recent. This is Wreck-It Ralph. The best scene in that movie is literally the climax. Again, spoiler alerts. I mean, I told you ahead of time. If you continued watching, it was at your own risk. The scene where he has to basically sacrifice himself at the end to save all the other characters and to stop this parasite bug infestation. That speech that he has as he's falling to the what was it, like a Pop Rocks or something like that. It was Mentos. It was a Mentos volcano. That kind of self monologue that he has was really good. Also, that the villain was really good in the movie. So it was just a really good film. It was actually one of my favorite Pixar films in general. So yeah, that one definitely made it on the list. All right, and the next one up is from Spider-Man Homecoming, and it is the Come On Spider-Man scene, or that's what I call it at least. The scene where he is trapped underneath the rubble, and he has to, he's all alone. He has no help. There's no Iron Man that's coming to help him. There's no friends there. No one can hear him. He has to do this on his own. It's an iconic scene from the comics, and it's a very intense moment in the comics, just like they did it here, where he realizes that he has to push himself as hard as he can, and that he has to really be Spider-Man and what people think of as Spider-Man, and it's a really, really good scene. And the kid who played Peter Parker in the film, he should have gotten something. He should have gotten some award for this. True, I mean, he gets to be Spider-Man, and that's enough of an award. But he did a fantastic job. I just love that scene. All right, now the next one was actually kind of tricky because I didn't know where to fit it on the list, considering I have kind of not really trashed, but I have a lot of criticisms in this current franchise and this movie in general, but this scene was very good, despite everything else in the film, and that was the Finn lightsaber duel with Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens. Now, when I watched the movie, the character that really spoke to me was Finn, and when he finally got the lightsaber and really squared up to Kylo Ren, I really, really was focused, and I really liked that scene, mostly because for Finn, through the entire movie, he's been basically this coward. He's been trying to run away. He's been he's been a deserter. He's scared of Kylo Ren. He's scared of the First Order. Like he very much has this coward kind of personality. And it isn't until he comes back to help Rey and she gets knocked out and he has to, duel Kylo Ren, to which, by the way, he has seen what Kylo Ren can do with the Force. He's not a stranger to his abilities, so he knows exactly what he's going toe-to-toe with. And the fact that he's no longer a coward. He really, he's dueling. I really wish that the lightsaber duel went on longer, though, but it really was a really good scene. I think it's the best scene in the movie. I mean, there's tons of really cool scenes, but that one's my favorite thus far. And then, of course, The Last Jedi just, of course, made him a coward again. So that happened. All right, and number 4 on my list is a movie that it is a Christian-based movie. It's a faith-based movie. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, the faith-based. But hear me out, though. Hear this out. It's the movie Facing the Giants. Now, I'm not a big sports movie fan. There's actually very few sports movies that I have seen. I think I watched Remember the Titans, and I didn't even remember anything about the movie. But there's one scene in Facing the Giants that I really, really liked, and it was the spider death crawl, also known as Don't Quit, the Don't Quit scene. Now, regardless of whether or not you're atheist or Christian or agnostic or what have you, this is a really, really good scene, and this scene and this monologue and these characters can really fit in a lot of other sports movies. And this can be said not only just about, just as a person or, as an athlete, but just anything. It's a really, really good scene. And it really showed that, you know, a crew and a cast that really didn't have any film experience were able to write and put together a really motivational scene. And it's just really high on my list. I can just watch that one scene like over again. All right, number 3 on the list. We're getting into some more recent film area. Well, actually, I think this one is probably the most recent on my list. And if you haven't seen it, please go see it. If you don't want anything spoiled, I mean, this doesn't really spoil anything. This is kind of in the trailer, but it is the One More Scene in Hacksaw Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge is a great movie. It's one of the best military movies that I have seen. I heard before I even saw it that people were saying it's right up there with Saving Private Ryan or Braveheart, and I have to agree that it is. It's based on a true story. The character, he doesn't want to kill. That's his thing. He doesn't want to carry a gun. He doesn't want to kill. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He just wants to be a medic, and he just wants to save lives. And that's the entire drama for the entire film, is that how can he continue to, you know, save these soldiers without hurting anyone. Well, it comes down to it where they're on Hacksaw Ridge, which is this steep mountain face, or this cliff face that they have to climb up, and up top is basically this just desolate hellscape war zone where people are just dropping like flies. It's dust covered, just trenches and holes where the enemies are coming out of, and he stays up there all through the night after everyone else has retreated, and he does his best to try to save as many people off that battlefield as he can. And you know, he keeps telling himself one more, and he's this scrawny, small guy, but he's like, you know, hoisting down, you know, in this rope contraption, these guys that are like 3 times his size. And it's just really, really good. And his hands are bleeding, and, you know, he's just, you know, just sweating, and he's just in pain, and he's tired. But he keeps telling himself, one more. Let me save one more. And it's just such a great movie and such a great scene. All right, and number 2 on my list. This one was a no-brainer for me. This one was easy for me to put on the list. I don't know what I'm going to do if I do another one in the next list, because I'm not going to be able to put this one on here. It's one of my absolute favorite scenes of all time. And it is Spider-Man 2, not Amazing Spider-Man 2, but Spider-Man 2 when he stops the train. And the reason that I like this scene so much, yes, Tobey Maguire makes a really stupid face. The faces that he makes, you know, is comical and has become a meme. But, you know, my challenge is to you, if you were stopping a train and you had to stop it with literally your bare hands, show me what face you'd make. But yeah, he literally has to, you know, save so many people, you know, using, you know, every ounce of strength that he has. It's very much like the Come On Spider-Man scene, except for the fact that it came before that and it came first. And it's intense, not just because he has to save them. He also has to save them, you know, while revealing his identity. They see him. His mask is gone. And at the end, after he successfully saves them and just about he passes out, you know, they rescue him from falling off, and they bring him in, and they promise to not, you know, reveal his identity. They're so grateful that he saved them that they don't want to, you know, reveal his identity, and they don't. That's actually really cool, is that the following film, you know, nobody's talking about, oh, I know what Spider-Man looks like. No, they kept it a secret. It's a really, really good film. Just that entire film is really, really good. Mostly just because it had the most human Spider-Man. It had the most human, you know, villain, Doc Ock. And yes, it's very dated. The CGI is very dated. You can totally tell where the CGI is. But the action sequences are great. The script is great. The dialogue is great. And this scene is just really, really great. I'm gonna be honest. It was difficult for me to choose from this scene or a different scene. But as I thought about it, I was like, no, this is definitely the one. From Lord of the Rings, this is Sam carrying Frodo up Mount Doom. Number 1, inspirational, cool, you know, goosebump moment in a film that I've ever seen. Now, the thing that was a close second, as far as I tried to do one franchise at a time. Yes, there are 2 Spider-Man films, but they are different. So you shut up. Was Boromir taking arrows. It was kind of a toss-up. You know, I was like, they're both really, really good scenes. They're both really, really good moments. And then I watched them back over, and I was like, nope, Sam carrying Frodo. And I think the reason that I like this scene the most is because, you know, Sam, you know, sure, he gets to fight a few things throughout the film. He fights spiders. He fights, you know, orcs and the Urukai, and you know, he has to fight, you know, Gollum on occasion. But through the whole thing, he's literally just been the best friend. He's just been Frodo's number 2. Throughout the entire thing, he's just been the tag along, the buddy, the, you know, he's not the main hero. He's not the, you know, the guy that everyone speaks his name. Frodo is the one that everyone's trying to protect, because he's carrying the ring. You know, he's not the you know, the warrior. He's just some small town guy from, you know, the Shire. He's a cook. He's, you know, he's just fun loving, often, you know, terrified of everything he sees around him because he's in freaking Mordor. You know, but this one scene when he realizes that he can't carry the ring for Frodo because Frodo won't let him. It's Frodo's burden. But what he can do is carry Frodo, who is carrying the ring. And they're both exhausted, and they haven't had food, and they haven't had water, and they look terrible, and they're just worn out, and he does it. He carries him up the entire cliff face, the entire rock face, and it's just jagged rocks. And, you know, and he would have carried him all the way into, you know, the mouth of the mountain, but Gollum shows up, and it's one of the best scenes, I think, in the entire Lord of the Rings franchise. Hands down. Close second is Boromir, you know, with taking arrows like a true badass. So anyway, that is my top 10 Goosebump scenes. These are all scenes that very much influenced the way that I write when I think about you know, dramatic moments, or you know, trying to give a scene or a character meaning or purpose, or you know, bringing their journey to a close. These are the kinds of films that I look to for inspiration. So anyway, if you'd like to see another top 10 video of any kind, leave it down in the comment section below. I hope this inspired you guys to go see those scenes and think of them in more of kind of a screenwriting kind of sense. If you're looking into screenwriting, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, peace.